can actually just absorb or annex those companies easily, force them to delist on Nasdaq. But you don't see that happening in Scandinavian countries. The governments there will only tell them to pay taxes instead of, telling them to be under the influence of government. So Scandinavian countries, the corporate taxes are very high. The corporate tax in Scandinavia is very high. That's the only thing they do. And they redistribute and give better welfare to the people. That's the kind of social democracy. But in China, I would say somewhat fascist because they are only within their own territory that they are like that. So fascists usually try to spread out. They are not trying to do that to Africa also, it won't work, they know. But they also they have to be very careful in Southeast Asia because history have shown that your diaspora are not very amenable to communism, the ideologies of communism. Even in India, they rejected Rahul Gandhi when he was trying to promote socialism. Outright reject. So it used to be Nehru who was trying to promote SMEs, economic nationalism. They thought that didn't really work out because self-reliance, at the end of it, India lost out in many areas in terms of development. So the only way for India itself was to ask themselves what kind of capitalism they want, rather than social democracy and socialism. Okay, so the private sector in India is like way stronger than the government. So there's no way India can be a socialist country. India will develop as a parliamentary democracy for sure. It's the largest democracy in the world with that kind of population. So that is why the British will have an advantage in terms of promoting democracy in Asia, because they will use India as an example. So the rise of China itself might say that China, their political system has been very successful. You have stability. There was no shock therapy, unlike Russia. Okay, you have central planning, very good. But in India, they didn't have shock therapy. They have democratic system. They may not have the best infrastructure yet, but if you ask me, if the British were to come back to this part of the world, they will work closely with the governments to build infrastructure in India. And that in itself is another form of soft power that the British will accumulate. And if India will get the soft power there, or infrastructure, you can be sure Singapore has really positioned itself for Indian market use. You can see it. There's no doubt about it. Or you can hear what the netizens say, you give the job to India and all these things. That is a separate issue. But in a bigger picture, the geopolitics, Singapore, the sovereign wealth funds have positioned themselves in India. Of course, the puppet master is, of course, the British. Okay, you're going to see wherever Singapore places the money is long-term investment. It's not speculative kind of investment. That's why you don't see them engage in all these leveraging and all these things. Okay? So I want to tell you that the French scientists discovered a new variant called LHU coming soon. So there are 22,000 variants in the Wuhan lab. 22,000 variants. Okay? And guess who are the ones who started? Where is it that all these ideas of lab testing didn't start in China? The idea started with Obama's administration, but they didn't want to do it in America because that would, if there's a leak like what happened in China, the whole American economy will be smashed. So they say they want to do some cooperation with China, pivot to Asia. Yeah, and they pivot very rightly. So they know that the leak will happen. So it went to Wuhan. Okay? And basically, is that they use China as a location for the biological war. See, the variants keep coming up, keep popping up. This is a biological war. People think I'm rubbish. In 2019, December, I said this. The biological war is here. You know how many people when they say they will close the border in 2020 March. How many Malaysians say we will come back in 2 weeks? At least 500,000. Yeah, 2 weeks open until today. Please keep open never open. Okay, so my PhD had to be delayed because of all these closure. I'm supposed to go there and present. And now I haven't presented. Yeah, I already finished writing already, but still cannot present. Cannot go there in person. Okay, so just to recap, you have to start off with the world unipolar world moving towards a multipolar world. One part of that, globalization. The regionalism is the rise of China, and to the fact that it started to talk about socialism with a Chinese characteristic. There's a limit to it. The limit has led to a trade war, a biological war also. And in doing so, China's zero COVID case is basically closing its door to the world. If I'm not wrong, you cannot travel between Singapore and China now. They ban people from Singapore. So the Chinese people here who are unemployed also cannot go back. So everybody is like in a cage. The monkeys in the cage cannot get out. So when Singapore opened the vaccinated travel lane with Malaysia, wow, a lot of people went back, man. The next thing, close again. Then they say, shit, cannot go back already. Yeah, no choice lah. You want everything your way, is it? Cannot lah. Okay, so next thing you need to do is to look at the multipolar world and how Southeast Asia will respond to this. That's your call. So we are going to look at the Asian regionalism, which is called the Global Asian Production Network that we're going to look at now. Okay, so you can go and look at how China did all these things with the BRI, from regionalization to awareness to create an identity. That's the limit there. Interstate regional cooperation is spread to Africa. State-promoted regional economic integration with Africa, with Southeast Asia. Okay, these are the two regions that they have captured, I would say. Okay, and there was regional cohesion. Until today, Lee Hsien Loong is clinging on to the idea that we don't invest in China. Cannot. China is a big economy. Cannot. He would drag himself to the grave. Cannot. Call his father to come out also. Hey, come out. Tell the people. The people tell him, no, we need a semiconductor for America. No, but China. Why is it your wife? Your wife investor, is it? Okay. So we know that the Europeans, on itself, they have reached all these levels here: European market, European Union, Common Market, Custom Union, Free Trade Agreement. So ASEAN is only at a Free Trade Agreement. So what do you think with this multipolar world? China, with its socialism, with Chinese characteristic, and ASEAN is caught in between Free Trade Agreement that would want an interdependent world, caught between the two Western and Chinese characteristic of socialism. Is it going to be a challenging time? So you can write both ways. One is that ASEAN can seize opportunity, which is what Singapore is doing. In front, say to China, yeah, we still want you. But behind Gan Kim Yong, we're going to produce 1,600 jobs. We're going to get you more investment. Singaporean must be ready. Wow. I think next time KFC, they're going to take out put Gan Kim Yong. He looks like the new KFC logo. Oh, but he's stressed. He's very stressed. Had to get a job, had to do safe distancing measures, had to go and find food security for us. Okay, so those are the things that you have to look at. And the economic integration, will it lead to the form of integration that we have with the ASEAN +3 that we had in Southeast Asia? Okay, will it be challenged? That means South Korea, China, and the other one is Japan. So you transform that into CPTPP. It is has come has been enforced already. The CPTPP. Will it be an area, a chessboard for the superpowers to have their rivalry? You have to think about that. I repeat myself. Will the CPTPP be a chessboard for the superpowers to engage in rivalry? At first, when you're younger, they say the rise of Asia, like what, as if you all, Asians, Superman like that. But suddenly, now I talk to you, right? You look at the rise of Asia. It's not like in unison. It is moving in different direction. But there's a problem for us because our education system is compliant, right, to a unipolar world. But now you are facing a multipolar world. You're not going to be, you can look at it as an opportunity. If you're a person who don't comply, like me, like outlier, hey, great. Why? Because it has to embrace more diversity. Okay? So, but for Southeast Asia, it will be a place where the free trade agreement will be constantly be renegotiated because the rivalries of the great powers there. Okay? So Japan will try to continue to entrench power. The British will do that. The Americans will use these two and perhaps also use AUKUS, Australia, UK, US, and all these alliances that they have with India to make it so complex that America just isolate itself and create its own manufacturing back to the first wave of globalization. And one day they have a war, then they say, I sell you arms now. Isn't that a great idea? That's what they are doing. So you make it more chaotic, more alliances, then you go and press here, then they press each other, they hate each other. Then they say, no, this is called democracy. And then they will sell you arms. Okay? So this question is, will the CPTPP be a chessboard for the superpowers to engage in competition? I think it is not just economics here that we're looking at. The regionalization. It is a contest of capital. Okay? You can see great power rivalries there. Okay? I'm not sure you have seen the new MI6 chief. Have you heard of this guy? Did I show you? Did I show you? Yeah. So this guy was a diplomat that becomes a MI6 chief. So this diplomat very very special. He was what is it called? A diplomat that was deployed to Malaysia. At that point in time, 2001 to 2004, he was also engaging Malaysia when he was appointed as the under the MI6 SIS, Secret Intelligence Services, okay, to help Malaysia to democratize. And eventually they democratized also. So you can see how the British used its diplomacy to implant the seed of democracy in Malaysia. Okay, and it eventually happened. Okay, so you ask me, right? Anwar Ibrahim did nothing. It was these people, these agents that are running, influencing all these social activists. Okay, so my question to you now is the form of integration that we theoretically conceptualize of ASEAN to be an ASEAN economic community. Will it be that in reality, will it happen that way? Will it be? It's an ASEAN economic community, free flow of people and movement and all these things. So this is all since 2015 that they wanted it to happen. Has it happened? Will it happen? I let you decide. We all don't look at me like, give me an answer, give me an answer. I got no answer for you, okay? I want you to give me your insights, okay? Will it happen? If it happens, how will it happen? It will not happen. Why will it not happen? These are the insights I wish that you have. But in Europe, it happened. It happened because of this existential threat that they were facing. The Soviet Union, the rise of Soviet Union. So if it happens, that means a real integration in ASEAN means that all the ASEAN countries believe there is an existential threat, that the socialism of a Chinese characteristic will monopolize the consciousness of Asia. That is a social existential threat for ASEAN. But if they don't believe that it will actually permeate into the fabrics of the society in Southeast Asia, then there's no threat. Okay? And which means to say that economic integration cannot deepen any further. It's very transactional, whereas Chinese are very relational. And being transactional, the best option would be to trade with the Europeans and Americans because they are rules-based. Rules-based are transactional. You follow the rules, we pay you the money. You don't deliver on time, we sue you. That is rules-based. Okay? And ASEAN has to decide on that. So Singapore, every day say they are developing Singapore based on a rules-based international order. What does it mean? What are they trying to tell the world? American hegemony. But then they also turn around and say, but we also love China. Because my wife invested there, no choice, you know. The latest one is that they go to Suzhou. Let me show you this. So, ASEAN, the world, seven days ago, I read this. So a lot of people say, can buy CapitaLand shares already. Can buy already. So 7 days ago, CapitaLand Development partners with Mitsubishi Estate to develop a business park in Suzhou New District. Now you know why our LHL say this. We follow rules, but we love China. The difference between this investment in Suzhou from the previous one is this partnership is with the Japanese, not with the Chinese. The last one with the Chinese was a successful failure. If you want to fail successfully, you want to learn about how business strategy or they fail successfully, go and look at that investment. They fail so successfully. I teach strategy, I can tell you, corporate success also have corporate failure. They fail in everything, in every way. But this time round, the Chinese allow Singapore and the Japanese, Mitsubishi, it's a big conglomerate, to invest in Suzhou, new district, renminbi 1.5 billion, which is only a very small amount of money. About 500 million, I think? 300 million. So it's like, you know what? Donation, you know. What is 300 million compared to the 6 billion that's coming from semiconductors? Nothing. So anyway, in China, there's a policy. Any profits that you get from your investment there, you cannot extradite it. You have to reinvest in China. So they have a lot of profit, right? China then say profit, okay, then you put back. You put back. But now I want to do it Japanese side, you know. You open, right? You like to, you say you open to globalization, you know, you do the Japanese side. So the money that went to China cannot come back, cannot come out of China anymore. So they reinvest. But the new money that Singapore invests is a lot will be in Singapore for the time being. And in Indonesia, the Kalimantan, the area where they put money in that sovereign wealth fund there. Okay? So the reality is Singapore will still invest a bit in China. But their main interest is not China anymore. Why? If you look at semiconductor, it is back to the 70s Singapore, where they look at manufacturing, is the productive power of Singapore. When you look at that, means you know Singapore has shifted away from that neoliberal world to a bit more social democratic system. They want to regulate the private sector, where they're already in the private sector anyway. Okay? And they work closely with the MNCs. Goes back to the 70s and 80s, where Singapore industrialized rapidly. Okay? So I say to you, those of you who believe that PAP is going to lose, think again. So how is it that they're going to clear this unemployment issue? Very easy. Just give less work permit, lesser PR. And in doing so, you're going to collect lesser from all these levies, right? You need to raise new revenues, right? Where is the new revenue coming from? Anyone got any idea? You cannot get levy from work permit, PR, all this. So where's the new revenue? On 1st of January, our friend LHL, we need to move forward with our GST plan. But walao, he raised GST. Then I only have one thing to say. If he doesn't raise GST, which was supposed to be done in 2010, he brought in more people, collect more levy, expand the economy, suppress the wages here. Or he raised GST, don't allow people to come in anymore. Lesser people in the workforce, pay higher taxes. Which one you want? You want job or don't want job? Everybody, actually, lightning strike me now. So this is the way the system works. So I said to you earlier, would you rather pay higher taxes and have a job? Or would you have a system where the goods come in cheaper, but you have no job? It's the same thing, the same principle. So GST, I wouldn't say it's bad or good. It is to move towards Singaporean first, I would say. Because you are going back to semiconductor. You are not going to outsource anymore. No more outsourcing. It's insourcing within the sphere of the Anglo-Saxon world. They're going to insulate, isolate the system from China. Okay? So the Europeans are going to do the same thing. They have their own operating system and all, their own markets. They got a German production network. They want to sell to us. Okay? So this is going to be a contest of capital, for sure. So the European Union, very interestingly, are very different from ASEAN. The European Union started because of one thing, two devastating war. When they started, it was a bipolar world, the Cold War between the US and Russia, Soviet Union. So they started the NATO, all these ideas of having a steel community, emergence of a pan-European perspective. So the steel community was basically to secure their interests in Europe. So that's how the production network, the foundation of the production network started. So the steel community, most of them will go to car manufacturing. And who is the best car manufacturer? Germany. So the Germans are the leaders in Europe, the main leader. Of course, the French are also producers of cars, the Italians and the Spanish. So you can be sure, in the world, most people would rather drive European cars because they got best driving experience. Again, I'm not saying GM is bad or Tesla is bad, but they have the first mover advantage there. Okay, so they created that economic community out of desperation. Okay, and not only out of desperation they could produce it and rapidly grow. They had the productive power to do it. That is very different altogether. ASEAN started without any productive power. And I've said to you why ASEAN actually started to come together is an illusion of the Americans that the Vietnamese have invaded Cambodia. So they say the spread of communism and all these things. So, okay, but it was also out of desperation because they wanted to contain communism, but they used Vietnam as an excuse. Okay, but ASEAN never had that productive power. So ASEAN will have its limits in terms of moving forward towards that custom union. They don't even have a factory that is owned by Singapore, that is R&D created in Singapore. All our R&D are collaborations based on collaborations with the US, with the Germans. The vaccines, we are manufacturers of vaccine because Pfizer outsourced to us. So they get all the cheap scientists with PhD there, like factory worker like that. So Singapore got a lot of cheap PhDs. When people tell you they're PhD, don't get excited. No. They may not make a lot of money because they might be factory workers, high-class factory workers. They just, okay, 1, 2, okay, that's it. All right, so the Maastricht Treaty, right, was to move towards a custom union. That's Maastricht is in Holland, and that was to foster greater integration. Okay, but ASEAN only believed that they have fostered greater integration. You look at the European one, it is more about the German production network. 1992, what happened? Came over, right? So it was time for Germany to unite and rise. So that integration came just 1 year after that, the fall of the Soviet Union. ASEAN never had all these things. When ASEAN had economic integration, it was based on what? The Japanese production network. What was it that was happening in Japan? They devalued their currency. It's called the Plaza Accord in 1985. When they devalue their currency, it is very expensive to manufacture in Japan. The cost has gone up. Okay, so what they do is they outsource to Asia. So Singapore got a second wave of Japanese investment. And 80s was the time that Malaysia enjoyed the inflow of investment from Japan. That's how they started that Proton Saga, the first car. The Malaysians are very proud of their car. But the truth is, besides the body, the engine, all actually is Mitsubishi. You can still see that when you take out Mitsubishi made in Japan. So the rest of the metal, they get the steel. Whose son get it? Mahathir's son. Get all the steel, the nuts and bolts, the spare part, his son. Okay? So there's a difference between Europe and Southeast Asia. There's no political will in Southeast Asia. The only political will is to prevent communism from spreading in Southeast Asia. And perhaps that will be the only situation when we are forced to decide to choose China or United States. A situation where we have to choose side is that we will reject communism altogether and subscribe to capitalism and continue with the hierarchy where the West will be the core and we are the periphery and semi-periphery. Where the communists will say, no, we are equal. But at the same time, power centralized in Beijing. But still there's a hierarchy. So, both ways, Southeast Asia will be under the influence of a superpower. Okay, do you get that? Both ways, Southeast Asia will be under the influence of a superpower. Although they say whoever put more incentive on the table, we will choose that one. But the truth is, there is no political will in Southeast Asia to unite. The only thing that will bring the people together is that they reject communism altogether. That was the reason Southeast Asia, Asean started. Because of this idea that communism was spread across Southeast Asia. So if Vietnam can, invade Cambodia, communism through the Russians through Vietnam will go and spread to Thailand, then invade the rest of us all, which is actually, a Cold War mentality, which is not true. We were asked to believe in that. So now we can be asked to believe that communism, through that socialism directly, socialism with a Chinese characteristic, confronting Southeast Asia through a relationship-based model where power consolidates in Beijing? Or do we stick to what we are now, where we look at the international system where we still respect the core, the Western Hemisphere, we are the semi-periphery, or the rest, peripheries? So if you look at that system there, the hierarchy there, the Africans will want to try to be semi-periphery. So if the Western world can give them a chance to be semi-periphery, then they will tell the Chinese, you know what, like Singapore like that, we love you, but you got $6 billion investment. Thanks for your infrastructure. We still love you, but we love them more. Sounds like a practical woman. I love you, but I love him more. Oh my God, so heartbroken. No choice. So if you are realistic in Africa, which one will you choose? Remember, a lot of rich Africans are in America and in the UK. The very rich one. Remember I told you 10% of the royalty that they give to the African nations? The money is parked in UK and the US. Not there. Because if people found out that they are corrupt and they are amassing a lot of wealth there, what they'll do, they'll start to have looting, right? So they park their money overseas. A classic example, Robert Mugabe died in Singapore, Zimbabwe, leader. So you mean that he has no money in Singapore? To die in Singapore? Cannot be right. No. I'll let you go and imagine how much money he has. Okay? So the political will of the EU, of the Europeans then, was because of Soviet Union. And the political will here is still not strong enough because it's only based on the code of conduct. The Europeans came out with a NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The code of conduct is just see how Don't know yet Then the Chinese are saying, no I won't do this Then the ASEAN say no, but actually be careful But everybody Okay, so but one day when there's a conflict of interest, then things will be chaotic. Chinese people are like that. They always pretend very, very friendly to each other. Then after that, they can start fighting. Normal businessmen, they're the same. So the character of the Chinese business, relationship-based business, is like that. Today they say one thing, things can turn next week. Okay? So, but in Europe, rules are rules. You're not happy? Go to the European Parliament there. Now they have a new chancellor, they have a new foreign minister in Germany. They want to enforce the rules. They want to go harder on on Russia, on China, based on rules. Not because I think Putin is strong, he's very good at judo, got many ministers. I don't care. You bring it on, I will take you on. And I'll rally Europe to go against you. And I'll get Americans to support against you based on rules. Then likewise, I'll do to the Chinese. Don't pretend, okay, your R&D is duplicate, not development, understand? Don't steal technology. I want to go and bring the intellectual property rights and sue you. That's why Xi Jinping quickly say, I hope the new chancellor will have the same pragmatism as Angela Merkel. What's the pragmatism all about? Yeah, Germany was exporting a lot of cars to China and depended on Chinese consumption for that. But now, they seem to be buying lesser of German cars because a lot of electric vehicles are made in China. So we shall see. So the regionalism that we see, Europe always pride themselves to be the model for regionalism that will eventually promote globalization. I say one more time, I hope you write this down. Europe promote itself as a region that will promote eventually globalization, more globalization, based on rules. That is the ideology of the European Union. That if all the regions can follow the rules, which is not difficult to follow, what the European Parliament has, okay, what the European Union has, all the various democratic institutions. You have that in your region, we can trade between regions. And if all the regions are like that, then globalization will increase again. Okay? So this one you don't need to know. We got 19 countries, creation of Euro 1999, 22 years now. What do you think of the Euro? It has brought about political stability across the region. So that their political will has actually rewarded them to come together. That means, go back to the transaction, the number, by the percentage there, 21% is in the international transaction is Euro now. So the Americans have declined in terms of international transaction, in terms of US dollar. Okay, so but you put them together, I say to you, they are 93%. So if these people come together in a multipolar world, which one will ASEAN choose? Let's be very realistic again. I love you, but I love him more. Okay? The same here. Okay. So in Europe, they have gone to the highest level. They even abolished passport, free movement of people. But now with this COVID-19, I think they will abolish this free movement of people altogether. They will not allow this to happen anymore. This is the time where people revisit the idea of being nationalistic to safeguard their own interests. Not because they don't wish to open up. It's more because they need to safeguard their own interests. Okay? So at that point in time, it created more integration, but people are already used to the European opening up and Euro as a currency. They are going to level sustained effort to promote the Euro with that $300 billion debt that they're going to raise through the market to establish the global gateway. That means Europe is going to raise $300 billion. The European Central Bank is going to raise $300 billion worth of Euro bond debt. You get what I mean? That means the bonds are all in Euro. And when the investors buy that bond, it's going to support the Euro again. And what will they do? Because you have investor confidence, the countries that are going to receive those money, okay, are going to be more confident because you have investor confidence. And that in itself tells us that the World Bank become lackluster because there are other ways to go into developing countries. The World Bank's initiative was that most of these people will go in there with conditions. But now the Europeans will do it directly, government to government. Okay? So there's a political experiment going on there of how the Europeans want to be more powerful, in accordance to what Macron has just suggested. Okay? To be more powerful is to allow your other people to use your currency more easily. And how to use it more easily is that you allow them to lend you money. You allow them to lend you money, then it will be used easily. Okay? So you will see the development of the European financial market broadening and deepening, especially the debt market will go broader and deeper. So if you are into finance, I would suggest there's this thing called Eurobond. There are Eurobond traders, US dollar, US Treasury traders. Okay, there are opportunities over there. Okay, or if you don't, there was an ex-IPE student that is working for the, what is it called? Rating agency, S&P. Yeah, he's working there, taking all the database. So I was just telling them in class, if you want to look at it, this one won't die one, rating agency. Because the rating agencies are where all the information comes, and the investors will base on what the rating agency produce. And after that, all the investment banks will look for you, or the person quickly go and apply. Hey sir, I got a job already. Where? S&P. Oh, where do you get the idea? You know? You know? Okay. So the monetary system more likely to stabilize inflation. Okay. And the other thing is that you need to criticize Europe. I don't think they will ask you a question on Europe, so I don't have to go deeper into this. But Europe has a problem. There's stability, but inequality between the eurozone quite wide. German economy is thriving, the rest not really doing that well. Between the west and the east and the south, the north and the south, sorry, there's quite a wide divide there. Okay, but a lot of people do not believe that the euro will collapse. As it is now, it is less likely to collapse. Instead, it will grow stronger. Thanks to, that's why they are willing to let the British go. You can go. Because they don't need the British anymore. They needed the British because Britain was in between United States and Europe. So if America is going to go inwards, you can go, it's okay. Okay, so the multipolar world, I hope you are gathering all this information. And I think the rest you can read on Europe, but I want to impress upon you that they have the highest level, and the European idea of regionalism is to eventually promote globalization through institutional arrangements. Okay, and but the rise of China is not. Is it based on promoting globalization? The Chinese say yes. The Chinese got another idea that it is also promoting globalization. Okay, so there are many ideas out there of how regionalism will promote globalization. So China say, I help Africa, no. So Africa come up already, you can trade more with them. Their income go up. So how can you say I'm not promoting globalization? So that multipolar world is very sophisticated, okay, which our military scholars don't understand. Military scholars are only, go there, operationalize, get money, that's it. But things change very quickly in the multipolar world. Okay? And the financial crisis, first, the Asian financial crisis gave the euro a chance. Second, global financial crisis gave the euro more chances. That's why it is 21%. And now the crisis in the international security will give the euro more chance also. So euro is not that it is a perfect currency. It is the best among the worst, I would say. Got it? It's just like you have to choose a prime minister in Singapore. All of them are like, come on. Never mind, Lawrence Wong. The best among the worst. But they call themselves, the best among the equals. But to us, it's like, oh my God, can you like get someone better? But no choice. Lawrence Wong. Chan Chun said, cannot, worse. Everything body system, you die. Only come every day, just don't care, like booster shot. The 7-year-old, 9-year-old bring him to court, so come fight, like that kind of prime minister, like prime minister. He more like, wrestler, like that. Okay, Gan Kim Yong, like newsreader, like that. So very difficult, the prime minister. He read news to you. Okay, so the single currency here is at the highest level. Financial crisis created the opportunities. And I said to you, the Brexit was finalized because they believed that America was moving inwards and Britain doesn't serve their interests like it used to. Okay, so NATO will be compromised in that sense. You see, NATO will be reviewed on how it moves forward. So it all still depends on the rise of Russia. If it rises steeply, wow, they will unite again. If it's status quo like that, then nobody gives a shit about Russia. Then NATO will just be a loose agreement as compared to what it was in the 1960s and 70s then. Okay, so I hope you analyze all these things. So in doing that, then the euro will become a more prosperous region. And they will start to project power and go to Africa, go to Asia, and then, try to accumulate soft power. So a lot of people has already dismissed Europeans, but do not do that. The Europeans are still around. Remember this, in the first wave of globalization, the Europeans were the biggest customer of China. Okay, 1900, the 8 nations went to China, and then they occupied China, right? Was there United States of America? No. All European nations. So they were that powerful. Okay, so vis-a-vis to that, the rise of Asia, along the way, we saw ASEAN, we saw ASEAN +3, but we saw a Japanese production network. So there will be a contest of capital in Asia between 3 countries, the ASEAN +3, the 3 countries that will be fighting. South Korea and Japan against China. Okay, Taiwan, no need to say. Taiwan is sure Japan. Taiwan was a colony of Japan. Taiwan is outright against China. Taiwan will be funded by the Americans like how Suharto was funded by the Americans. Okay? So this is very clear cut here. In Southeast Asia and in Asia, on North and Southeast Asia, there will be tension. In Europe, there will be unity. Very interesting word. Very interesting word. Okay? I'm about to end already. Okay, so all these initiatives, APEC and all these things is just regionalization only. And Lee Hsien Loong wearing his pink shirt and his suit, going around, shake hand, very excited with his Ho Chin, wear sandals, go to White House or everything to cut deals. All the governments were all cutting deals with the MNCs. All right? So they cannot, when I was studying at NUS, they were saying that, wow, maybe we should have ASEAN like the Europe. My eyes roll back, because my undergrad thesis was Europe, the Euro. Then I look at ASEAN, come on. So when I said, which part of ASEAN is a Europe? No, it's a model, but but where are we? And how can we get there? when we don't even have the political will to start a custom union. Not even possible. Okay? So I give them the historical background, and then they think I'm mad, as usual. People always think I'm mad. I'm used to it. And it's very clear cut today that ASEAN is divided. They don't have the political will to be united. They dare not take the next step forward. So the main critique of it is that the clause of non-interference. It's a bloody waste of time when it's non-interference. In Europe, there's no such thing as non-interference. It's rules that will rule the region. The rules are the mandate of the region. Non-interference means there's no mandate for governance. There's always room for negotiation. Wait until the Myanmar government is ready to negotiate. So we excuse them from the meeting first. Wow, sounds so sexy, right? We just excuse them for a while because it's non-interference. But if there are rules, we cannot excuse them. Bring them to the table here. Why you kill so many people? Why you have ethnic cleansing in your country? The Rohingya. Why? It's against human rights, no? Why is it the people are leaving the country? Why are they are born there? Why are they refugees now? It's against the United Nations Security Council. And if you really follow that, you rally the United Nations, they will send in the troops there and that's it, But ASEAN, Singapore will not want to go in hard on Myanmar because Singapore is the largest investor in Myanmar. So like I said, they always say, we love them. No choice. We take all our money, GIC placed out, our CPF, Myanmar, this, that, Lee Kuan Yew, sound them good. Is to go and accumulate power. Okay, the sovereign wealth fund. So Singapore so small, cannot. Japan, not part of Southeast Asia, created a production network, was undermined by the rise of China. So it's very chaotic. Look at ASEAN. There's no one proper leader in Asia. There are multiple leaders that will be contesting. Okay? So the rise of China, I hope you relook at it carefully and write your essay. Okay? And ASEAN is definitely for globalization. That is for sure. But not a rule-based kind of globalization. It is based on compliance to accommodate MNCs. That's all it does. That's the kind of rules that they really follow. Not human rights, no identity. They just say cannot because we are embracing diversity. Okay? So regionalism in ASEAN actually is more flexible and actually it promotes globalization as compared to the Europeans. Because when it's rules, it's more rigid. Got it? When it's rules-based, it's more rigid. But at the same time, there's a weak point for ASEAN. Because you're so flexible, you don't want to take sides, then China also very flexible, absorb you and create a consciousness for you. You also don't know what to do. Okay? So ASEAN is neither here nor there. So at this point in time, there needs to be a leader in ASEAN. But I'm afraid there is no leader in ASEAN to take side. Okay, so every time you hear Lee Hsien Loong talk, I just shake head. What you want to do? Cannot. The real leader of ASEAN is Indonesia. That's the truth. They have the size. Okay, there's no one time China tried to invade Indonesia and succeeded. No way. Never they try. You can try. If you go and listen to this guy, I'll just maybe I'll put it here now. well as Indonesia. Okay. I think you all should listen to him.
But the problem of extremism in your society,
Muslim majority population. We are the largest Muslim majority country in the world. And our people look with respect and affection towards the Middle East,
Who is this?
towards the Arab world.
Yeah, that one, 54 minutes. Yeah, you all take your time going to see, okay? So he has a military operation in Indonesia now that is ongoing. Although Jokowi is in power, this guy is preparing for the rise of China. He activated, like how he used to be, he described in this, how he activated the villages to be part of the whole scheme of things of an invader. From the district, the lower subsidiary, the villages, all involved. If any invader comes, you have 300 million people who fight against them. Going back to the old history of Indonesia. I hope you're going to read it. Go and look at this. If not, you go ISS, Indonesia, this year. If Jokowi steps down and this one becomes the president, that means the rise of China is really a threat to Indonesia. If he doesn't win the next one, that means the rise of China is no threat. Okay? But he will try, the Indonesian military will try not to be in politics at all. They have really cut a deal. The military will be a professional army. They don't want to get involved in politics. But if the rise of China warrants the military to step in to further deepen the operations of an invader, to prevent an invader from coming to the country, this guy will be the president. And you can be sure the Americans will love him to be the president. Why? To sell arms to him. Okay? So, you can see the global production network or the Asian production network will change. Okay? So China as a manufacturing hub will start to decline. It will go back to try to revive that Japanese production network. Ken? So have you got what I tried to tell you? Regionalism, right, and globalization can, be on the same side of the coin, the same coin, on both sides of the coin. But they may not be compatible. So you have to look at two schools of thought. One, the liberals, they believe that it is compatible. The other one is the mercantilists, they believe it's not compatible. It's zero-sum game. Okay, so when you're writing your essay on regionalism, only use two schools. But when you're analyzing, use Wallenstein's international system to give your insights. I repeat myself. When you're writing an essay on regionalism, only start off with liberalism, mercantilism. But when you are giving insights, use the Wallenstein international system. And then your essay looks very insightful. Okay? Or you can say in this essay, we'll look through the lens of liberalism and mercantilism to see the contrasting view. But in relating to the geopolitics, Wallenstein's international system will tease out, okay, the reality of regionalism. So ASEAN got so many preferential trade agreements, and it's so messed up. Okay, then the Japanese got involved after the Asian financial crisis. Yes, still the entrenched power with this Asian bond fund, where you can borrow money through Japanese yen. So you're actually supporting the yen as a dominant currency in this part of the world. So that's why the yen is still 5% in terms of international transaction, because the Japanese underwrite the bonds in the event the ASEAN countries can't pay. Understand what I'm saying? So the Japanese say that, okay, if you can't pay, I will underwrite the bond. I will help you out. So the Japanese got a lot of money in their bank, but they only act weak. They learn from their the experience in the 80s where the Americans knocked them down like what the Americans are doing to China. So every day Japan now, no, recession. Watashi, recession. Sorry, no, it's okay, no. Every time act weak. Why? Because they want to export to America their cars. They need to do that, no, they die. The number one business is United States. Okay? So China is still 我们中国人可以 but after cannot also maybe after actually say only actually say only. When they really pull the plug, then we see the truth. Maybe Xi Jinping said we close, like Mao Zedong close. Close. The Americans not close. There will be a revolution in there. Either cultural revolution or people's revolution against the government. Then you go in revolution yourself. Okay, so that one we must see. So the Japanese are still the main players in this part of the world in terms of creating that opportunity. So ASEAN is still stuck with this nationalist sentiment at the same time as they open up. Impossible to get anywhere with it. Okay, Malaysia boleh, Indonesia also boleh, Myanmar also got their own style, Vietnam is a homogeneous society, Cambodia, Hun Sen, Casino King, Thailand still monarchy, also economic nationalism, Philippines, don't know. All right, so Indonesia is still a lot of economic nationalism. You see the way this guy talks, like, oh my God, don't play a fool, man. He's talking about invaders going to his country. You can imagine the villagers, they will all join the army to fight the invaders. Sounds like Mao Zedong, if you ask me. They go to the villages and chase the capitalists out of the country. So who are the capitalists? The invaders. Remember, China was ruled by invaders. So they got the farmers and they chased out the invaders. The invaders were in the northeast area there. Okay, what is known as Mongolia now, Inner Mongolia. The invaders. So this guy, don't mess around with him, man. Mao Zedong, man, look at his size. All right. So I got one question for you. The rest is all reading only. So regionalism versus multilateralism, you have to look at it from conflict compatibility. Okay, slide number 62, please take note of that. But I want you to take this question and write an essay, your second essay now. But first, if you have not written the first essay, you stick to your first essay. Don't submit this one and then you say first one not counted. You write your first one first, then you write your second one. Why? Because I need to give you feedback on the first one, then you can submit the second one. Why am I giving you these specific essays? Because I think these are the questions that might come out in the exams. So I've explained to you in 2 lectures how to frame your essay. I need to get feedback through your writing. Only then I know whether you understood what I've been explaining or not. Okay, so don't be afraid. A lot of you like, well, if I write there, later he look down on me, how? You think what? I'm here to look down on you. Come on, man. My job is to empower you, Not come here and like, stupid are you? Stand out, get out of the class. That one is last time me, I got it from the teacher. I'm always the outstanding student. Stand outside. Okay, so if you are in the process of writing the first essay, finish that, but this will be your second essay. Okay, I got 2 more questions for you, but then that will be after the prelims. Then you have a better feel already, you write 2 essays then. And I'm also freer to mark your essays then. Again, but you need to have guiding principle before you go for your prelims. So go to your prelims, even if you write 1 question or 2 questions, doesn't matter. You must have a feel of it. Okay? If not, you'll never have a feel. It's going to help you a lot. Okay? So the best way is to keep writing. Keep writing your essays. And is it a physical location for the final exams? Still don't know it. Oh, not confirmed. But there are a lot of scripts that are like, held back in LSC because of plagiarism. Yeah. So most likely they will want people to go to the exam hall and write the answer. Because as much as you tell them, no, please follow these people, yeah, but still the same thing. You should know now. Okay, so any question? We try to frame an essay from this. So it can be asked this way. I'll give you another hint. It can also be asked about the rise of China. Okay? Another way of framing this question is the rise of China. Is the rise of China mutually supportive or conflicting trends of globalization? Do you get it? Is the rise of China mutually supportive or conflicting trends of globalization? So you got to always remember to focus when it comes to regionalism, China as a regional power. In this course, you look at a past year exam question, always talk about the rise of China. So by that, you should know that, if you look at China as a liberal, then it is mutually supportive of globalization. If you look at China as a mercantilist state, then it is conflicting trend with globalization. So to what extent is it liberal? Where is the limitation of their discourse of liberalism? Where is it? It stopped at socialism with a Chinese characteristic. Okay? And that is in itself actually also show the other side of China, which is mercantilistic. Okay? And it's supportive of globalization because it helped Africa to come out of poverty. So there are many things you can bring in about China. Okay? You got to understand this very clearly. But China in a unipolar world will be very different from a China in a multipolar world. So you got to start bringing it up. In a multipolar world, and of course, how you look at China and ASEAN's relation, how China and European and US relation, and how China and African relation. I believe you can write 3 pages. So I hope you prepare an essay by the side that for me to help you, that in the event a question comes out on the rise of China or regionalism, you got an essay in your head, in your pocket there. All you need to do is look at a question and you just write very quickly. Okay? Got it? Got it? Siche, Felicia, Yongsing, Nico, and Suhana. Okay, I see you next week. Goodbye.